Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Father Son Packers podcast, your source for Packers news, notes, and analysis. My name is Tommy, and I'm one of your hosts, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, my dad, Matt. Dad, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. We just had, it was an hour-long discussion about the Packers before we got started.
I don't think it was an hour. It was like 30 minutes. I think we got in here around like 1 o'clock. But yeah, we were talking about, we're talking about what we're going to talk about today, which is team needs. So this is going to be our team needs episode. We each have our top 5 ranked team needs for the Packers going into 2026, keeping in mind both the players that are going to be lost this offseason and potentially next offseason as well, and kind of plan for the future a little bit. So we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about a couple of coaching moves that have become official in the last week or two. So we're going to talk about that as well. A little bit about players that we think might also be potential cut candidates, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, we were also just talking about how big of a loss is Romeo Doubs? Every playoffs, he really does kind of step up. He's usually really good in the playoffs. I do think that's being...
So here's a question. There is these things floating. I was like, oh, maybe Doubs could actually come back no. I don't see how that's possible.
I don't see how...
He would have to take so much less than he can get in the open market.
He's going to get what? Probably at least 18 to 20?
I'm going to guess 18.
Part of it is it's a very weak receiver class in free agency. It's Alec Pierce. And no shade to Alec Pierce, but most receiver classes in free agency would have a better number one than that. I think he's coming off a 1,000-yard season. He had a really good year, but I think normally he'd be the third or fourth guy in free agency. And now it's Pierce is 1, Doubs is 2. It's is there really
and maybe Pierce gets re-signed by the Colts before free agency even starts.
Yeah, so I think
and then Doubs is number 1.
Exactly. So someone's going to throw a bag at him because that's the thing. I honestly feel at times I think we are underrating the loss of Doubs because people are lose Doubs, whatever. He's third or fourth on the team. I was every time we get to the playoffs, he's putting up 100 yards in the games that we win. So it's I
think people are hoping for it, as am I, the growth of Golden.
No, and I think it's the right decision. Just to be clear, I don't think they should have retained Doubs just because you've invested so much there. You still have kind of a backlog of guys, and that's the reason you have a backlog of guys is so you don't need to pay out the nose for another receiver. But I do think they are gonna there's gonna be some growing pains without him.
So odds on where Doubs lands? Steelers?
I don't think Steelers. The thing is the Steelers thing.
If
I think
Rodgers plays again,
I was gonna say the odds shift
Rodgers
dramatically.
Stays, then Doubs.
Exactly.
Because they have 2 receivers instead of just 1.
I honestly wouldn't be entirely surprised if he ends up in San Francisco. With them losing Ayuk and Jawan Jennings is a free agent.
Jennings is getting older.
And Pearsall has had, trouble staying healthy. They don't really have receivers right now. So that was one I saw.
I haven't heard the Niners. I've heard some other.
That was when I saw people talk about Patriots. Possibly.
Yeah.
Because they don't really have a guy outside of they have a lot of complimentary guys, and I guess Doubs would be another complimentary guy, but they kind of need to fill out that room a little bit. Bills was one I saw. Because the Bills are eternally looking for another receiver. Dolphins, I think they're so rebuildy that I don't know why they would spend on a receiver. I feel that's a long term. Whereas the Bills, the Niners, the Patriots, the Chiefs, maybe those are teams that are trying to win right now. I don't think the Dolphins are. Who are they kidding? Are they gonna I'm sorry, but who are they kidding?
They're not exactly fast track. They shouldn't be trying to fast track.
Their job is to get out of the Tua contract. That's job number 1 is to get out of that.
But they don't want to end up where the Vikings are, where they go all in before they should go all in.
Well, to be fair, someone was was there any reason that the Vikings couldn't have been the Seahawks from this year if they just kept Darnold? It's
if they kept Darnold, if they kept Darnold. Yeah. But once they kept McCarthy, then they spent all this money to go all in on their first year with a totally untested quarterback.
Yeah.
That's a leap of faith.
You hate to see it. They were Darnold wasn't any good when he got here. How good does McCarthy have to be? Turns out It turns out that's a tough one. And then they fired their GM 2 weeks after the season probably because honestly it was just so embarrassing to watch Darnold go to the Super Bowl.
I think that was 100% about the McCarthy Darnold.
Well, did you see
decision.
all the talk was which team should feel the worst about this? The Jets, the Panthers, the Niners, or the Vikings? And I think it's obviously the Vikings.
Vikings, 100%.
Obviously the Vikings. They had 14
the Niners
wins.
The
Niners have a quarterback.
Darnold
Jets wasn't that good with the Panthers.
He wasn't good there, and they're going to suck anyway. Same with the Panthers.
Yep. But the Vikings you saw proof of concept. Although to be fair, we were talking about this, and it's like I think this is a little bit hindsight because I remember at the time being like, "Oh yeah, like honestly, that probably is good for the Vikings that Darnold played that poorly in those last 2 games to like drive his price down, and so that they don't go." Because I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be like the Daniel Jones thing, where he has like one really good year, and then you pay him a boatload of money, and then it's immediately like, what were we thinking? Like it's Sam Darnold, it's Daniel Jones. Like I can't believe we did that." And ironically, both of them were on the Vikings, and ironically, both of them had really good 2025. So what do I know?
They had 2 quarterbacks on their roster better than the one they chose. They chose the worst of the 3.
You hate to see it. But anyway, we're getting a little bit sidetracked. Let's start talking about some Packers stuff. But before we do, just wanted to pitch a couple of things. If you like what you hear, subscribe, whether that's Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Leave a comment, leave a review. Follow us on Blue Sky at Father Son Packer for updates on stuff. We're doing an episode every week this entire offseason, mostly focused on the draft, but also focused on free agency as well. How can Green Bay improve their team to kind of go from those, I don't know, also ran seems a little bit harsh, but go from those teams that are not, that team that's not quite at the level of those contenders and really kind of break through that ceiling that we've struggled with the past few years. But anyway, yeah, episode a week every single day, or every single week of the offseason. Every single day, though. Every single week of the offseason, so check that out here. Dad, I guess we will start with some news, and mostly coaching related. Nothing really major going on. The first is that Luke Getsy has officially been named the quarterback's coach, which we kind of assumed. But he's going to be the quarterback coach. Any thoughts on that, internal promotion, I guess you would say? He was like a consultant with the team because he had previously been the quarterback's coach, and then he had gone and been the offensive coordinator with the Bears and then the Raiders, and then came back as a consultant and is now going to be the quarterback's coach. Any thoughts on that hire?
I think there's a chance he'll be good at the job. I mean, some people are upset that they did well when he was there before, and he got promoted maybe beyond what he's.
Yeah.
It was it's just a bad situation when they didn't do well when he was the OC.
Yeah,
I think neither one of those situations was actually any good.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with the hire. I understand the criticism that's like, hey, wouldn't it be nice to get like some outside ideas into this offense to kind of give it some juice? But to me, it's like the issues with the offense to me are not the passing game. We need some new ideas in the run game, and so like that's like kind of why I'm just like, quarterback coach, like for me, it makes sense. You think the run game's all O-line, no scheme?
Or what we need the most is O-line.
Oh, sure. Coaching. But like I'm talking about, you mean in terms of coaching the O-line, sure. Yeah. What was I going to say? But I agree that the O-line is, I mean, the coaching there, but it does seem like, kind of in related news that Luke Butkus is going to stay on as the O-line coach, which was like not expected. It was very much expected, I think.
Especially after LaFleur's last
presser talking about the O-line
called him out.
Yeah, the O-line. Well, yeah, maybe not. He didn't call Butkus out, but he called the O-line out.
But the whole O-line, though. Called out the unit.
And it seems like he's going to be back, and it seems like Bisaccia is going to be back. So we're just... Here's the thing, and why I was a little disappointed, to be honest, because I was looking at it, I was like, is there any way you could talk yourself into the coaching staff being better next year? I think on paper it's worse.
I like some of the defensive assistants.
I do too, but I think that Gannon's a clear downgrade from Hafley, and so it's like to me, it's like
hope it can be Eagles.
Yeah. Well,
Eagles
to me, it's
Gannon,
like you kept Bisaccia, who's a problem. Well, even Eagles Gannon was overrated in my opinion, but we'll see. Hopefully, I'm wrong. But Bisaccia, who's been terrible, you're keeping him for no reason. Butkus, who's been terrible, you're keeping him for no reason. And then you lose your defensive coordinator, who was like your best assistant. So it's like, to me, it's like on paper, the coaching staff is just going to be worse, which is really disappointing.
Here's a question.
And kind of, I feel like very complacent. And I think people sometimes overuse that word when it comes to the Packers, but I think keeping those coaches is super complacent.
Did we already lose our real best assistant a year ago?
Clements, you mean?
Campanelli.
Oh, maybe.
And that was the real difference. And why the defense was not as good this year as the year before.
I think there's definitely something to that. I mean,
it wasn't
actually with the Jaguars
Hafley
this year
working the magic. It was Campanelli. And that losing Hafley is not that, possibly, I'm not saying this is real, but perhaps losing Hafley is not that big a deal. And what he looked so good at in his first year was really Campanelli.
I think that's entirely on the table because you look at the numbers after Micah got hurt, and the defense is like 32nd.
Yeah,
like it's like bottom 3.
It's bad.
It's really bad. Yeah. And I think that's 100% true. And I do think that, I don't know how, but the defense gives up 2 different 70-yard touchdown drives in under 2 minutes in the fourth quarter of a playoff game, and somehow no one criticizes him at all. It's crazy. Because
he built up so much cred the first year, and maybe that wasn't his doing.
I think that is an interesting point, and I think that there's some legs to that, because you look at that game, you score a touchdown with 6 minutes left. It should be on the defense at that point. The defense should be able to get a stop. What is going on here? You missed the extra point, of course, but
of course.
And the special teams guy comes back, and McManus is probably going to be because McManus made so many kicks under 40 yards that I guess just can't get rid of them. I suppose
I meant to look at those 30
so
in a
many
row
chip
whenever
shots.
He made. How many of them were over 40?
But anyway, other news. Speaking of special teams, our top special teams assistant Byron Storer is going to the Browns. Okay, sure,
yeah,
that's fine, I guess.
It sounds like the Browns.
What did they
looked
see?
At our special teams and said, we need some of that.
We want that right there. That's what we want. But anyway, so that's happening. And then we also made a hire on the front office side. Former Auburn GM Will Redmond, and no, not Packers corner Will Redmond.
Safety.
Corner safety. He played a little bit of both. But anyway, so that's a move there. Couldn't tell you anything about that, but the Packers are, refilling the front office a little bit after they lost some guys with John Eric Sullivan going to Miami.
It's good that they've added somebody before the draft to help do the scouting.
Although at this point, I feel like they're probably pretty deep into the scouting portion, right?
The combine's coming up, but most of the stuff is done. I mean, probably the biggest thing left to do, because they probably have. I wonder how much access they have to the teams, because the college teams have on-field speed data.
And also, it's probably good to have extra people to go to the pro days and stuff like that.
Right. And what I was going to say is the interviews that people doing. The interviews are probably the biggest thing that actually happens still to go.
Pro days and interviews and combine. Yeah. No, 100%. All right. I guess let's start talking about needs, and we'll start off talking about free agency and who the Packers are likely to lose. So right now, Green Bay has 6 unrestricted free agents. Likely to
six
get
that are likely to get
significant contracts.
There are others like Neiman and
Fitzpatrick
and
guys like that. But that's a good distinction to have, that there are 6 that are
Zane
likely
Anderson
to get
as well.
contracts.
Yeah, so there's several that they might be bringing back on small contracts, but those contracts won't be enough to figure into the formula.
Exactly.
Where it has to be like the top, I forget, 120 players or something.
Exactly. But anyway, pretty much essentially if we sign more than 2 unrestricted free agents, it'll take a good hit to our compensatory picks. But also, I feel like that's something where you kind of just have to let those things happen and not worry about it too much. Those players, though, that we are that are free agents this offseason, that I don't think. I mean, most people, I would say it's pretty common opinion that we're not bringing these players back. Rasheed Walker, Quay Walker, Sean Ryan, Romeo Doubs, Malik Willis, Kingsley Enagbare, and John Fitzpatrick are all probably gone. Likely cut candidates, Elton Jenkins and Rashawn Gary, almost certainly not back with the team. And then possible cut candidates, Nate Hobbs, Aaron Banks, and maybe, but probably not, Josh Jacobs. That's the lowest possible one.
I would say of the players you list, there's a chance for Dobbs or Enagbare to come back. Oh, sorry, not Dobbs. What did I say that? Ryan. Look at the list. Sean Ryan.
That's
and
possible.
Kingsley Enagbare. And
I see,
especially if Gary gets cut. If Gary gets cut, I think they're going to bring back one of Cox or Enagbare. And Cox is possible to bring back on only $3.5 million.
Yeah, I think that. I just
Enagbare
think that why draft, Sorrell and Oliver if you're just going to bring Enagbare back? This is kind of how I see it. And so that I just don't think you need to bring him back. He's fine. I think he's a fine player. I think he'll go somewhere else and he'll be solid. He's a good third guy. I see him kind of it's like if Kyler Fackrell was a better run defender. It's kind of how I see him. He's a fine player. I just don't
actually feel like Sorrell is the guy you drafted to replace.
I'm excited for Sorrell
as a fourth rounder.
And he's looked good every time he's played, in my opinion.
But I do like the idea of bringing
Cox
Cox back on the cheap, because it's cheap.
If he's cheap, yeah.
Well, I mean, he's a restricted free agent.
Yeah.
So you could put one of the
he's
tenders on him.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd put a tender on him though, because I don't think he's worth that much money. I don't think anyone's
$3.5 million for right of first refusal.
I mean, to be what, your fifth edge?
That's pretty cheap.
I guess we'll see. I don't know if he's worth that much money. Like he's a fine player,
and he might not be your fifth edge.
Exactly. Well, so right now, I mean, like Micah.
Let's say the first month of the season.
Micah, LVN, Sorrell, Oliver, Cox.
Yeah.
Like, and probably Cox ahead of Oliver, honestly. But yeah, no, I see what you're saying. But anyway, I think it's like 40-60 that like Hobbs or Banks get cut, like in terms of like 60% that they stay, 40% they get cut, maybe 30-70 even. I don't think Banks is going to get cut because I think they're just like the O-line is already kind of the O-line's already losing, two starters, at least three, kind of, with like Elton and Ryan kind of being like each a half of a starter for the total course of the year, and then Walker. So I don't think they would want to like have like more than half the line getting turned over in one offseason.
It's a lot of turnover, and the depth
is really.
I feel
we'll
like you
talk
only
about that.
Cut Banks if you already have somebody in mind who's agreed to a contract to sign for the same amount of money.
Yeah, which. Yeah, I don't think you. As much as I would like to not have to watch Aaron Banks play left guard for my football team, I think just looking at the roster on paper, it's not exactly ideal. But Dad, let's start talking about those needs. Unless there's anything else you want to talk about those free agents.
Well, for example, when you talk about like free agents and who you cut and who you're keeping, you think both about if you're like say cutting a player, let's say Banks, you are losing that player. And then if you replace him, you're signing a unrestricted free agent. So then you're losing a comp pick as well at that point, most likely. You're probably already going to sign two. So then you are essentially trading Banks for a player on a 3-year, $15 million. That's basically what you free up. And you're trading Banks for that player, plus you're also losing it would be like a fourth rounder.
Yeah,
for that amount of,
and I don't think Banks is good because the thing is, the hope with Banks is like, can he play average guard? And like that's the hope is like, can he play like an average guard? So I don't know.
It seems like there are players who are at least as good as he is, who are expected to make less money than that.
That's kind of how I feel about it too. But we'll see. But let's start talking about needs, and I think we each have our top 5 ranked. And maybe a little bit over.
And some I have more details than others, but yeah, I guess I did get up to 5, didn't I?
Okay, so I've got my top 5. You got your top 5. I'm gonna have you go first, and if we say one that's on each other's list, we'll just say where we have it ranked. If we have it ranked the same, and we'll just talk about it together. Kind of makes sense. What is your number one overall need though for Green Bay going into the offseason?
So what I have as first is this number one, but it's I think O-line in general, so I tried to be more specific.
I also had O-line first.
But I went with starting center.
Okay.
So right now, Sean Ryan is free agent.
Yep.
Elton
Jenkins is going to get cut, probably.
Widely considered to be cut. He's on the last year of his contract for $19.5 million savings if he's cut.
Yeah.
He was 25th among 41 qualifiers in pass protection efficiency and 30th in run blocking grade.
Yeah, he was. Not only is he expensive, he's coming off of major injury and wasn't playing well when he was healthy. So it's like kind of like, why keep him around? Like, I don't know.
Would you be better off if you like kept Elton, signed Ryan to be center, and sent Elton to right guard?
I just don't think the money's worth it because you're paying him, like you said, almost $20 million, and he was like a below average. Yeah, he wasn't that good this year.
So possible solutions. What you would do for your center, but where it seems like the top 2 candidates from this past year might not be available. One,
it's not great.
Roll with Jacob Monk. Your tolerance for this solution may vary.
This isn't a video podcast, but I just made a face like I tasted something really sour. Stop
chewing on stink bugs during the podcast.
The thing is, you can say Monk played pretty well against Minnesota in Week 18.
So I have the data. So
okay, hit me.
He only played 57 snaps.
Sure,
the year.
Essentially 2 games, like 1.5 games
in the back of Week 18. It was like one full game.
Yeah,
about 60 snaps,
a little bit over. Yeah,
he was 6th among 55 centers with at least 50 snaps. in a combined metric of pass block efficiency and run blocking grade, where I kind of double the weight of the pass blocking efficiency, counting pass blocking more in the entire league, mostly on that one Vikings game. So
yeah,
your ability to extrapolate from one good game will vary.
I will say, only one game, and it was week 18, but the Vikings defense had all their starters in pretty much.
Yeah.
He was playing next to non-starters. Like, he was playing next to just, like he was getting no help, essentially.
So, yeah, so what's anybody covering for him?
And like, just bad offensive players all around him. And he's still graded out pretty well. So, like, there's that. I think the counter argument to Monk is every time that they have, like, even thought about playing him, they have just not, like, he's been inactive a lot. Like, and they don't seem to want to play him whenever there's an injury. They'll put like anyone else in. Like that we were joking about before this that like in the Eagles game at the end of it last year in the playoff game in the wild card game, Josh Myers got hurt. They're like going into commercial break. Jacob Monk is taking the practice snaps with Jordan Love, like as they're like getting Myers off the field and tending to him. And then we come back from commercial and Sean Ryan's at center. And we always joke like, man, how bad were those practice snaps? Like what happened from going to commercial to coming back from commercial that they were like, no, we can't do this. So the thing is that we do have some small sample stuff where Monk like has played okay. He's really undersized. He's like very much like an only center. And so I don't know, do the Packers even want to have him be their starting center? Right now, he'd kind of have to be unless they brought Ryan back. And I don't think they're going to bring Ryan back just because he's going to get like more money than you think he should.
Yeah. So here so this option 2 is re-signing Ryan from week 10 on when he's only playing center. Ryan was 18th amongst 42 centers with at least 200 snaps in that same pass block efficiency plus run grade ranking. That pass block efficiency that is actually better than his PFF pass blocking grade. They like those two, friend, do not match up in any way. I don't know how many like missed assignments they give him for they don't call as being beat.
Ryan rides the roller coaster. He'll have games where he's like just kicking ass out there, and then other games where it's like, hey man, can you make a block, please? Like we really need help out here.
Yeah, so
and I will say to be fair to Ryan, he was playing against, I would say, you know, as much as we like maybe Anthony Belton looking forward, 2 like below average guards, like 2 bad guards next to him, like on either side with like not a lot of help.
Yeah, so he's like 18th in that metric. I think Jenkins was 29th in that metric. Another option would be going for the most. So Ryan is like supposed to make like $6.5 million, but maybe you don't believe that. And then there's Linderbaum, supposed to make 3.5 times as much as Ryan.
We're not. I don't.
And
think
actually,
Linderbaum.
If you look at the numbers underlying it, it's not that great. His pass block efficiency is 35th compared to Ryan at 36th.
I do think Linderbaum is like his name and the fact that he was a first round pick kind of is impacting what he's going to get in free agency. Is kind of
his run block grade is 4th best in the league among centers. So that's what's carrying his.
And
rating.
Also, to be fair to him, he is also a victim of playing next to 2 really bad guards, like 2 really bad guards.
And to be fair, ESPN likes his pass blocking more than PFF's grading system, where ESPN has him as 4th best in pass block win rate for all interior offensive linemen. Another cheaper option is Austin Schlottman, played for the Giants last year. He's 30 and like 4 months or something. He's a little older. Basically, he's expected to cost half of what Ryan is expected to make. 11th in the same blocking metric, right next to Linderbaum at 10th. So this is another option to think about. He filled in for the Giants, played.
I mean, Spotrac thinks that Ryan's only going to get like $7 million a year, but I think I think the O-line contracts just keep getting.
Do you think it's the Runyon contract, or do you think it's bigger?
I think it's more than the Runyon, because I mean, Runyon had more years, but he was so bad at run blocking that I don't know. And I think that contract has worked out for the Giants. But for me, I had the O-line in general, because I think it was just by far, obviously, the biggest problem with the team, like in their losses. And like our O-line last year was just bad. I mean, you look at it, and so for what it's worth, PFF had us as the 11th worst run blocking unit and the 11th worst pass blocking unit. So bottom third of the league in both. We had the 12th highest pressure rate allowed, and the fourth worst amongst the 14 playoff teams. So, like, and a bit of that's like, hey, our time to pressure was not terrible, so part of that's just the style of play we had. But when you look at the offensive lines of the playoff teams, the only ones that were worse by pressure rate were the Chargers, who were missing both of their starting tackles, the Panthers, who, like, were a sub 500 team, and then the Patriots, who couldn't block a soul. So, like, and you could argue, hey, the Patriots still made the Super Bowl, which is a fair argument. But you saw in that Super Bowl, they couldn't block anybody. In any of the playoff games, they couldn't do anything.
They only won because essentially
the opposing
Denver handed them one touchdown.
Yeah, well, the opposing teams against the Chargers, the Chargers offense could not do anything. CJ Stroud could not stop turning the ball over, and then Denver was playing with what's his name? I don't even remember.
Jared Stidham.
Yeah, I was going to say the backup.
All they had to do was have Stidham not turn the ball over deep in their own.
And he yakety sacks threw it backwards for no reason.
Right. It was worse, right? Because it wasn't an incomplete pass.
Yeah. But what was I going to say? So you look at it and it's like, you're like, hey, like bottom 12th, that's kind of close to like, it's just slightly below average. Like, yeah, but if you look at the playoff teams, like it's really bad compared to the teams you're trying to compete with. Specifically our interior offensive line. I actually feel like okay about our tackles going into next year. I guess we'll see what Morgan gives us and how Tom comes back from injury. We'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, specifically our interior offensive line gave up the second highest interior pressure rate in the entire league, and the second most interior pressures amongst interior lines this last year. Number one for both of those, the Chargers. So we were
they lost their two starting tackles, and their interior
was worse. Yes, their interior was worse than their tackles still. Their interior offensive line was really bad. But yeah, so we gave up the second highest interior pressure rate and second most interior pressures like total over the course of the year. And funnily enough, you might be like, well, Elton wasn't playing great. You had some problems. You were putting like Kennard in there sometimes. If you look at just the Banks, Ryan, Belton trio, we would be dead last by like a good amount. So like if you just look at them, it's like even worse somehow. And like the gap between like us and second to last would be like gap between like second and fifth. So it's like it would have been worse even if you just look at those guys. And somehow I think on paper, it's even worse next year. Because if you're looking at this, you got Jordan Morgan at left tackle. Question, is he good? He was good in the preseason at left tackle, but he hasn't really played left tackle in the NFL much at all. I think we're cautiously optimistic is how I would color, the feeling around Jordan Morgan right now, right?
Yeah, and so if you just look at the last 4 games of the season, which 3 of them are right tackle and 1 is at left tackle, where they rested everybody, his combined like pass block efficiency and run block grade is 18th amongst offensive tackles with at least 200 snaps.
We'll see. So I think that's safe to say it's an unknown, though. It's safe to say it's an unknown. So you look at that at left tackle. Left guard, Aaron Banks, I just don't think he's good. Can he get up to being not terrible? Can he be average? How much of this year was injury related? I think the hope is that he's an average guard. And when your hope is that he's an average guard, that doesn't feel great, right?
Yeah, not for the money he's getting paid.
Well, and even not just not for the money. Like
how he was better at the end of the year. It's like, so I looked at like week 7 and on where it's like, okay, basically I picked through that stretch, like where he had a really good game, because you cannot find a stretch of all good games in a row.
No, even
at the end, he had some terrible, terrible games.
And that was what Brian Gutekunst was like, he really came on in the second half of the year. It's like, he had more good games, but he still had some really atrocious showings. I think Denver was really
was terrible,
awful.
And I think against one of the Bears games he was bad, and maybe another one.
He had a decent playoff game, but I just don't trust him.
Just from week 7 on, he was still 52nd among guards in that pass blocking metric.
And so that's your left guard, and then you go to center. You got Jacob Monk, which we've talked about already. Doesn't feel amazing.
The shinning.
Yeah, exactly. But some call it. And then you got Anthony Belton at right guard, who showed some flashes and was just a rookie. So you could talk yourself into some development because he hadn't played there before, and he, for some reason, didn't play there in the offseason at all.
That is definitely a talking yourself into it moment because,
because he was really bad.
He's looking pretty good. And then you go back and look, it's like,
statistically,
it looks encouraging. Then you're like, oh man, he played terrible.
And there were flashes. He was pretty good, moving guys in the run game at times, and, had some mobility for his size that you like, but statistically, he was very poor. And then Tom at right tackle, the only offensive lineman I trust, but he's coming off of a season-ending knee injury and off-season surgery on that knee to a pretty substantial injury, and so you don't really know like when he's going to be back, like how he's going to look when he comes back, and so you look at that, and then the depth behind that. I mean, here are the names: Lessida Smith, Donovan Jennings, Travis Glover, John Williams, Brant Banks, Dalton Cooper, and Carson Barnhart, who I have never heard of. No offense to that man. I have never heard of you. The Kiki Palmer's like, no offense to that man. I've never seen that man before in my life. So the depth is really bad. I don't really trust, I don't trust 4 of the 5 starters. And then the 5th one, like, is coming off a serious injury. And so you look at the O-line and you're like, oh my goodness, this is like, it actually, the more I looked at it, I was like, this might be even worse than I thought it was. Like, the O-line's a real problem. And Brian Gutekunst said that in his closing presser, but also we're keeping the O-line coach who hasn't been able to, really get the most out of these guys also. I don't know. Yeah, what are your, any last thoughts on the O-line?
So I actually double dipped by putting O-line depth or mostly tackle depth on my list as well.
Oh, what do you have at 5th, or where do you have it? You had it 4th.
What did I put it?
You had it 4th. Oh, tackle depth. Yeah.
Tackle depth 4th, as well as center. But the whole thing, I have again like mystery men as backups that we know nothing about, and probably maybe our top 2 backups right now are players who didn't play a snap. Neither one played a single snap this season.
Glover and Williams. Yeah, it's probably true. Because Donovan Jennings in preseason did not look good. He had a really rough preseason
this year. Lessida Smith actually graded pretty well in his little bit of play. Shout out. He's actually
been like
got one
on
of the
and off
grades
the practice squad. Like, we'll release him, we'll bring him back, we'll release him again, bring him back again.
Yeah, he didn't have very many steps. Didn't have enough steps to qualify, but he's like one of the best graded players.
And Brant Banks, I think the times he was on the roster did not I think he was on the field goal block that was really, really bad. So that I just think the O-line needs a complete overhaul.
I mean, if you look at it, they only had one good offensive lineman last year.
Yeah.
And he was hurt and missed a good chunk of the year.
Yeah.
And the rest were below league average.
Yeah. And you're playing their backups now. Because last year you went into it and you're like, oh, the depth's pretty good. You got Belton for depth. You got Morgan for depth. You're 7 deep on O-line. Now it's hey, those guys are now your starters, and the backups behind them are complete unknowns. And maybe Williams shows something this year coming off an injury, but I think that's you can't plan on that.
But there is a chance, and I think it's not crazy, that the starters are better this coming year than this past year.
If you get a different center, I can. If Monk is not the center.
Yeah, so
I
Morgan,
can see that.
Morgan from Walker.
You'd hope Morgan, specifically 2025 Rasheed Walker, because Walker had really a down year.
We're talking about next year compared to this past year.
I think if Morgan is not better than Rasheed Walker was this past year, that's really disappointing because
a miss.
Because then essentially, if to be better than Rasheed Walker was this year, he just needs to be an average starting left tackle. And if you used a first round pick on a guy who can't even be an average starter anywhere on the O-line, then that's that was a really bad pick then. So,
right.
I'm holding out hope, but
I expect Belton year 2 to be an upgrade over Belton year 1. That's another upgrade.
That's the hope. Yep.
If Tom is healthy, he'll be an upgrade.
That's an
if. How long it takes him to come in. Center
Banks
be
Banks
a wash,
could be,
and Banks a wash.
Yeah, center might not be a wash. Ryan was quietly decent. Monk might be really bad. We'll see who the center
Monk
is.
Monk is, even though he said one good game, is a mystery.
I just don't. Yeah, I can't trust him. But anyway,
maybe they'll bring Ryan back.
Maybe they'll bring Kennard back.
Sign.
It's also possible. At this point, they need the depth so bad. I'd be just bring Kennard back. Why not?
I think they should sign some free agent at center, because I think there are players out there who are better than what we've got and better than Ryan was last year.
I mean, you look at the centers. If you look at guys who are in the Ryan tier, there just aren't that many. There's just not many guys where you'd be like, oh yeah, I feel good about him competing for a starting center spot. You've got Ryan, but then you got above him. I mean, Postage is too old to maybe you bring in a 30-year-old and you're like, hey, we're going to give you a small vet contract. I don't know, but that doesn't feel great. Cade Mays also doesn't feel great. Maybe you see if Elijah Vera Tucker will take a prove it deal coming off an injury. I don't know. That's tough. But anyway, we talked a lot about O-line. I do think it is the number one need, so I'm glad we did. What's your next biggest need on the team?
Oh, I'll say, where am I on here? I'm going run stuffing D tackle, and I will admit that I have doubled up on D tackle by splitting out run stuffing from pass rushing D tackle.
I have just interior defensive line overall, but that is also my number 2.
So last year overall, Green Bay was 24th in run stop win rate as a team per ESPN and 22nd in PFF's run defense team grade. According to FTN Fantasy, Packers were 21st in adjusted line yards. So that's a defensive line stack on D. 24th in power success. Also, you got to put that on the backs of the D line, power success. That's through stopping teams short yardage.
Yeah.
And 23rd in stuff percentage. So holding a team to no gain or a loss.
It didn't feel that bad to me, though, which is why it's like surprising.
Yeah, so I felt like overall the run defense didn't seem that bad, even though
there were certain games where it felt really bad. It was the Cowboys game, it was the Panthers game, and it was the Ravens game. And it was the second half of the first Bears game. Those were the games where it felt really bad. But then you get to certain games like the playoff game against the Bears. I thought the run defense was fantastic. And you got a MASH unit out there. Like you're running out there, Jonathan Ford, like who had been on the team for 2 weeks at that point.
So here's my take on it. I need to like really grind through the tape more. Is the only reason the run defense was good overall, better, linebackers and safeties. It's not the front. It's not the defensive front. It's not the D tackles. And so it is the rest of the team filling the gaps and coming in to fill and tackle, and rather than the defensive tackles.
So I'm not as worried about I have interior defensive linemen like as a whole, but I was focusing more on the pass rush aspect, which I'll talk about in a second. But I was not as worried about the run defense because I was like, hey, we had guys out there like Jordan Riley, our like fourth guy, got hurt, and we were down to like okay, Quentin Bohanna got cut because he couldn't like hack it, and then we brought Ford in, and we're running like Wooden and Brooks into the ground, still the run defense in the playoffs against one of the better run offenses in the league pretty much shut them down in the run game for most of the game, and so that's why I wasn't as worried about it. And then I remembered that we don't have Halfley anymore, and we have Gannon. And I was like, Gannon has never had a good run defense, like at any stop. Even when he had that whatever top-ranked defense with Philly, they were still a bottom third of the league run defense. And their tackling they were still a below-average run defense, and their tackling was bad. So it's like, to me, it's like, well, maybe you do need a D-tackle because Gannon's going to need that because he's not able to manufacture run defense like Halfley was able to.
Yeah, and of the defensive tackles, in terms of like run stop percentage, so run stops per run defense snap, Wyatt was 35th out of 143 defensive tackles, Wooden 41st, and then you plummet to Brinson 121, Brooks 133, Stackhouse 136.
Do you think there's any developmental, like, do you feel like, how good would Stackhouse have to be for you to be like, okay, we're good at having nose tackle there? Like if he develops a little more.
He has to show so much more than he did this year.
A big step because he was pretty bad.
It's going to be a big jump. And Brinson as well wasn't good
in run defense. He was good against pass. But I had interior defensive line from more of a pass rush perspective, and I just wanted to touch on that really quickly because our pass rush was really bad last year besides Micah, and a lot of that had to do with the lack of juice from the interior defensive line. In terms of interior pressure rate, like by team, we were 7th worst in the entire league. And also, 2027 is going to be like, we need to backfill this also because Wooden, Wyatt, and Brooks are free agents next offseason. So like you just like after like this year, there are no defensive linemen on the roster besides Brinson and Stackhouse. And so you need to like start getting some guys in there. And so that's why to me, that's like the second biggest one. Couldn't rush the passer. No one besides Wyatt could get pressure. And it was just Brinson was okay, I suppose. But I don't think you can super rely on him as like your number 2 guy, like every single snap. And so that's why to me, I was focused more on the interior defensive line from a pass rush perspective because they did okay. I thought, I know the numbers aren't great, but I thought like when it mattered, they were able to manufacture run defense, and the linebackers and safeties like Evan Williams filling from depth was able to cover up for a lot of that. To be fair, you're also losing Quay Walker, so you're probably losing some like run defense there as well. Hopefully Hopper can, fill that role, but we don't really know that. He's only played like a handful of snaps and looked fine when he did it, but just hasn't played a lot, so it's kind of an unknown. But I do think that interior defensive line, just looking at what the front did last year, especially against the like passing games of other teams, I mean, it just needs to get fixed.
Yeah, and I have some more numbers because I've had them as the pass rushing defensive tackle as a need as well in its own
So what do you have it at? Fifth? Okay.
So I had second and fifth for the two things about defensive tackle together. And what I had is, if you look at the individual players, so QB pressure, their rank in QB pressure percentage out of 100 and how many is this? It must be over 150. Brinson was 32nd.
Yeah, he had like quietly a pretty good year rushing the passer.
Wyatt was 56th. Brooks 100th. Ford 138th. Wooden 140.
Take me back to rookie year Brooks. Brooks was so much better.
Stackhouse 147th.
Yeah, Stackhouse.
Now, if you look at quick QB pressures, the percent of pass rushing snaps with a quick QB pressure. So what is that, under?
I think it's under 3 seconds or under 2.5. It's something like that. Yeah, it's 3 or 2.5. I always forget.
Wyatt was 32nd. Brooks was 128th. Wooden 132nd. And then Brinson, Ford, and Stackhouse were all tied at 135th with 0.
Not a lot of explosiveness.
So there. Wooden only had like 2.
Yeah, Wooden really, he kind of earned his pay in the run game, because I thought he was pretty good against the run this year.
And then for get off, it's like the speed of getting there. So
yeah. How Brinson quickly you're getting off the ball. Yeah.
Brinson,
yeah, I think there's something there with him. I'm kind of excited to see
Brooks
what
is
he looks
45th.
like next year.
So he's getting off. He's just not beating anybody. He's getting going fast, but he's not beating anybody. Wyatt was 84th. Stackhouse. So that was lower than I expected for Wyatt. Stackhouse 106th, Wooden 152nd, Ford 158th.
There's just
he's
no
not
juice
exactly
there.
Jumping out of his stance.
Yeah, there's no juice there in that D line room right now, and that's why I think they need to.
And there are solutions in the draft. I think there's some like nose tackle bodies that look like they can also do some pass rushing, and D tackles in free agency.
Yeah,
like Calais Campbell, he still had the 7th best.
I would not mind bringing in Calais Campbell, not at all. He's still got it a little bit.
7th fastest get off, 15th highest quick QB pressure percentage, and as well as being 13th in stops per run defense snap.
I would not be mad at a Calais Campbell signing at all. But we'll talk more about that when we get to like our free agency preview. But I would not be mad at that at all. I think there's going to be some opportunity to like get like some depth there, like in free agency, that I would hope that they dip into. I think most people would be surprised that we have not said this one yet, who we both have third. Corner. I think most people would be surprised. A lot of people have this as number 1. I think this is a distant third for me. I think 1 and 2 are distant
I know
third
that
for me.
You have a philosophical opinion on corners in general.
I don't believe in investing in corners. I don't believe in it because they're so volatile year to year. They are. You don't play that much man coverage anymore. You can cover them up with safety. You can help them with safety help a lot more. You can cover up for a bad corner. And if you have one good corner, doesn't matter at all. They just avoid him the whole game.
Oh yeah, just a flashing red light going off over everybody else.
Exactly.
So here's the question.
And you can motion guys so easily to get them off of your best corner. You can do so much stuff as an offense to like manufacture good matchups. And then like we said, I think the biggest thing though is what I said first, which is corner play year to year is super volatile unless you're like a Surtain. And so like I just don't believe in investing in corner. So that's part of the reason I have him third.
Do you rank as in terms of position value. Safety above corner?
I think these past few years I would say yes, because I mean we've seen that you can have a good defense if you have good safeties and meh corners. Like I think that's fine. Right? You can make that work. And the amount that the safeties help in the run game. And we were talking about before the game, before we started recording, rather, that one of my biggest takeaways from this, Seahawks Super Bowl run was that your corners need to be able to tackle. That's such an important thing in the run game. And I think that, so looking at it though, I do think corner is still number 3. I don't think it's as big of a need as others, but like Gutekunst said, I do think the depth is really bad. Like your number 1 backup corner at one point was Bo Melton, who has never played a snap at corner. And we had to pay Trevon Diggs $500,000 to come be a backup corner because the depth was so bad. And he played 1 snap because we were that desperate. And also of note, both Keyshawn and Carrington are free agents after this season. And also this coming off season, the one we're in right now, there's rumors Keyshawn Nixon might want a new contract. And if he asks for a new contract and like won't play on like his existing one, I think you just have to trade him. So like you might just end up with like Carrington Valentine's the only corner you got, and Nate Hobbs playing outside corner opposite him, and you're just kind of that feels a little sketchy.
Yeah, because even as a kind of, if you consider he's sort of like a mid-level corner 2 for Keyshawn,
yeah,
he's grossly underpaid.
Yes, 100%. You can say whatever you want.
Cutting him, it's like he's making like what, $5-6 million?
Or, yeah, not a lot of money.
Like, you will never get
Yes,
a
starting corner
for that little money.
And their counter argument would be, well, he shouldn't be a starting corner on most teams. And I would say, maybe, but he's not like for how much he's paid, it's totally a value.
Yeah, it's so. Yeah, I also have corner. I'll talk a little about the individual corners. I think they need a corner who's good enough to push Nixon and Valentine to corner 2 and 3. If you look at their yards per coverage snap, Bullard is the best of the lot. I mean, he's a slot corner at 19, so it's not exactly the same thing. Valentine 56th in yards per coverage snap, Nixon 68th, Hobbs 74th. EPA per coverage, so coverage EPA per coverage snap. Bullard, and here when you place him in the corners, he's like 84th. Valentine 118th, Nixon 111th, Hobbs 141st. So Nixon is, in yards per coverage snap, he's kind of like.
I mean, he was so high in pass breakups, though, that he must be an elite corner, right? That's what Brian Gutekunst said.
He had 13 of them or something.
I mean, they were but 6 of them were against Washington. Remember, it was all he had a ton in that one game. It was the most that a Packers corner had. Maybe in decades. I think I can't remember exactly, but yeah. I mean, I think corner's a need, but it's not the need that I think. I don't think we should spend our second or third pick on a corner. I think we have O-line so much more important, and D-line
corners who are the equivalent of a bottom end corner 2,
which is not great. And you would obviously love to I'm not saying that the corner room can't be upgraded. I'm just saying that I think the priority is fix the O-line, then fix the D-line, and then we can talk about corner.
I think that's how I feel. You can't ignore corner, but you could also argue against it. Doesn't need to take the number one value resources, the highest contract.
Yeah, I mean, what I've been saying is if you told me, hey, you have to fix O-line, D-line, corner, you can only fix 2 of the 3. I'm picking O-line, D-line. I'm not thinking twice about it. I think those 2 need fixing so much more than corner does, because I think just trenches are just that much more important. And we saw this past year, there are times hey, it's you can't run the ball. It's really hard to be super consistent drive to drive on offense. And if you can't get pressure, you're just gonna be susceptible to huge gains in the passing game at all times. And so not ideal. I've got 2 more needs left. I don't think you have any more, huh?
Because I keep jumping in.
You've gone through all yours. All right.
I just gave my last one right because I kept.
Okay. So I've given my top 3. My 4th is tight end, because I think we saw. I mean, we're throwing screen passes to Darian Kennard. I think that's all I need to say. What are we doing out here? If we're throwing screen passes to Darian Kennard, we need another tight end. I'm personally kind of just done with the Luke Musgrave thing.
If you get to the point that Darian Kennard is your tight end 1,
yeah, it kind of felt like it. Right, it was bad. And I think obviously also with Kraft coming back from injury, it's hard to know what the timeline is / what to expect from him coming back. I'm just kind of done with the Luke Musgrave experience. I just don't think. I mean, he's fine. He's just barely a tight end. He is really by the loosest definition of tight end. He's
only a tight end because he's 6'7".
Yeah, I mean, he's tall, but and he's fast, and he's an interesting idea of a player, but I don't know.
He's also maybe that you could put this on LaFleur as he's not the kind of player, or what he's good at is not what they want to do.
Exactly, which I would say.
So how about you modify what you want to do for what your players are good at?
Well, I think you can also argue, hey, that's more maybe on Gutekunst. Why would you draft a player that's not good at the things that the tight end is asked to do in this offense? Right? Why would you draft a tight end who can't block and can't run after the catch when that's 80% of what tight ends do in this offense?
But we did say but the headmaster could you please stop giving him a ball where he has to turn the field and break tackles?
Well, that's why I'd say I'd say the number one issue was with Gutekunst drafting him, because you could clearly see he had poor contact balance when you watched him at Oregon State. But then I think that's the number one problem is I would say that's on Gutekunst. But then once you have Luke Musgrave, you cannot ask him to do the Tucker Kraft things. You can't throw him little dump offs and expect him to create after the catch. It's not what he does.
They started to get away from that a little bit.
They started to get him on some crossers. There was the one against the Lions he caught, which was nice. He had moments.
Going left to right. The diving catch. The diving catch? Yeah, that was a nice catch.
And so he had moments, but I just don't think he's just not a full-time player. He is he's a kind of specialist. He's almost like like a kind of like cherry on top type player where you have him for like a handful of snaps and he's kind of a mismatch in some areas, but I don't think he's an every snap player. And like we saw that. I mean, he was getting out snapped by John Fitzpatrick, and when John Fitzpatrick went down, like I felt like the offense really like that was tough for the offense. The offense missed him. And so I do think we needed like another blocking tight end who can maybe do a little bit like, and it shouldn't be expensive. Like these, I'm not talking like, don't spend out the nose for like a Kyle Pitts or an Njoku. I'm just talking about like a complimentary tight end, because right now I think just like your tight ends 2 through 5, like hopefully Kraft is able to, come back and be Kraft still, but you still need these other tight ends, because you also see teams like the Rams, teams like the Seahawks, like these big jumbo sets with multiple tight ends are kind of coming back in vogue. And right now you just you don't have the personnel to run that. Like you can't do that.
We could run a 3 tight end set
if we wanted to
without using offensive linemen.
Exactly. And so I think I have tight end next. And then
I feel like the way I think about it, what we need is a replacement for Fitzpatrick.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like
we missed him.
That's like a 7th rounder.
Yeah, I'm not talking about like major investment. I'm talking about like a minimum level free agent signing and like a late round pick and an UDFA. Like I think you put 3 more bodies in that room and kind of just have them fight it out for those spots. And then my 5th was, I think we need another edge rusher maybe. I just think it's a little, because I just think it's similar to like, similar to interior defensive line, we need more pass rush, and similar to tight end where with, Kraft, it's kind of unclear exactly, the timeline and what he's going to look like coming back. I think you could say the same thing about Micah. And you're also probably letting, Gary go this offseason, and LVN is like the last year on his contract. So I think you just need to also backfill that a little bit. And I think that's obviously, I think the gap between, tight end, to me, it's O-line, small gap, D-line, medium gap, corner, small gap, tight end, big gap, edge. But I do think there is a conversation to be had about maybe adding some more edges to that room.
For me, I think if you bring back one of the players, it does that job. If you bring back Gary, probably not going to agree to enough of
that's
a
not
pay cut
happen.
that they'll bring back. Enigbari probably makes...
Not worth it. I just don't think it's worth the money.
But who else would you get? Can you get somebody that's less of an investment?
I'm just talking draft another guy in like the 5th, 6th round.
Well, I feel like if you sign Cox, that's
sure
the same purpose.
That's fine.
And you actually know he can play already.
Yeah, that's fine. I wouldn't hate it.
His quick QB pressure rate would have been ninth.
He's solid. He's like a good.
He only had 79
guy.
Defensive snaps because of his injury, but he does enough where he could give you enough in that room.
Yeah, he's a little one-dimensional though.
And he doesn't play any special teams. He's
not a great run defender. Like,
but if you're just looking to fill out the room a little bit, get a little more depth and something to work with, I think he gives you enough at a relatively cheap cost.
I don't disagree
because you
that.
can put one of the either round or right of first refusal tags on him.
Yeah, I mean, we really just need LVN to play better. Is like kind of like the big takeaway there. You just need to play better.
Unfortunately, we didn't get to see it enough this year.
Well, and he did play better, but the bar was so low that was like, okay.
His quick QB pressure rate was 62nd this league for edge rushers, which remember how it was like a year ago?
It was like 100.
He was like bottom 3.
Yeah, it was like league. Well, I remember we looked at like the pressure rates of like draft picks or like first round draft picks that like had been that bad. It was like guys you've never heard of, like guys who were like instantly busts and never did anything. But yeah, so that didn't like that draft pick at the time and don't like that draft pick now, but hopefully you can turn it around this year. Any final thoughts on the Packers' needs going into 2026 before we start wrapping things up here?
I think we've gone over the big things and some of them, and you might consider excruciating detail, listeners.
I love it,
but that's okay. It's that time of year.
That's what we're here for. Excruciating
the
details. Excruciation. It was excruciatingly painful to look at the O-line depth chart. I'm not going to lie to you. I was looking at that thing. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. The backups right now.
Really bad. It's
like,
really bad.
What's going on?
And the starters aren't great either. Let's be honest.
I think they're going to draft 2 offensive linemen and
they might draft 3.
They could draft 3.
Wouldn't even
Most of my mocks are like 2 offensive linemen, 2 defensive tackles, maybe 2 corners, a tight end and a linebacker. Linebacker's another sneaky need.
Yeah, I just think
depends how much you trust Hopper.
I think you got to just see what Hopper has. I think he looked good enough in preseason and good enough when called upon. I think the question with linebacker more to me is McDuffie back this year, and how does he fit in this system? Because if you don't like McDuffie in the system, then you need a linebacker.
Oh, if you don't keep McDuffie, you desperately need a linebacker.
Yeah,
and also you have two.
Well, the other question is Johnson? we don't know also, like, because Gannon played more base than other teams, if I remember correctly, and we don't know if we're going to be a 4-3 or 3-4. If we're a 4-3 and he's going to play a good chunk of base, then, I think you do need to look at linebacker. But if it's a 3-4, in base, you only need those two linebackers. And I get most of the time you're still going to be playing two linebackers because you're in nickel so much. But I don't know.
Yeah, he also plays extra safeties.
That's true. Yeah, and we have the safeties for it. So
rather than a third linebacker, you have Oladapo.
Well, I was gonna say like, can Oladapo like kind of just, he's a big guy, maybe just a linebacker? I don't know, something to think about. But anyway, this has been our needs episode for the Packers, and the more we talk about it, I feel like the more needs there are. Big offseason.
It's like a ball, just pulling a thread. Oh, there's another.
It's like, oh man, look at the O-line. Oh man, look at the D-line. Especially like the thread, the pull is like when you go look at the free agents for the next year, it's like, oh man, we got no starters. There's no one left.
That's what we have. We have a lot of cap space to work on in 2027. It's like,
got a lot of positions to fill too.
Positions to fill.
But anyway, thank you again for listening. We'll be here every single week of the offseason talking about the draft, talking about free agency, talking about camp, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you again for listening. Follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. Sorry, I don't know Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Blue Sky.
Are we singing the next episode?
I guess so.
All right, I got my guitar on the wall.
Follow us on Blue Sky at Father Son Packer for updates on these episodes and updates on Packers related news. Once again, thank you so much for listening, and until next time, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.